So good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Monday. As you guys know, I like to call Monday Mindset Monday. What are you thinking about this morning? Where is your mind? Are you all over the place? Are you already thinking and worrying about Christmas Day? Listen, I get and understand preparing, but I don't want you to worry. I want you to get into a place where you truly know how to just trust God and not worry. Now, I'm not saying that I nail this every single time, but there are little tools and strategies, biblical strategies that I have learned to use, trust, and depend on to keep my mind from worrying. When I tell you guys the real lesson, the real gift that God is giving each and every one of us is the ability to take our thoughts captive. And that means, guys, I want you to get to a place where you have a practice and a strategy for quieting your mind, for telling your mind what you will allow it to think and what you will determine and what you will command it not to think. You do not have to think about a future that's scary and that where everything falls apart. You don't have to be worrying so much about like and I know this one would be really hard, your health or your money or your relationship situations. You really don't have to worry about those things. And I know you may be thinking, Kanisha, that's easier said than done, particularly if you're the person who may watch this and there's something physically going on in your body. Things when people get diagnosed that are horrendous. Now, my closest thing to that is, of course, I've had some medical issues and gone to get the mammogram, and they've shown me, said, hey, we need you to come back because we see something. And I remember earlier, the very first time that happened for me, I was terrified and I didn't know. I didn't know the power of the mind. I didn't know that I could choose what I was going to think about finding out that there was something, they were seeing something. So that, the days before, because they call you to tell you, hey, we see something, but the appointment isn't but 2 and 3 days later, sometime a week later. And so all that time you have to ponder on this very scary fate. And I know for me back then, historically, I would think about all of the worst things. And I mean, from the point where I done visualize my funeral. And I want you to listen to that word I use. I visualize. How is this going to affect my family? How is this going to affect my children? Oh Lord, my babies are going to be this and that. We visualize a terrorizing future. When the truth of the matter is, I made all that up in my mind. And when I got there, so, finally I prayed. Finally I prayed prior to going. And I had this God experience where it was as though when I was sleep, I had a dream. I imagine it was a dream where it seemed as though God had sent light from heaven, and the area in my breast, it seemed as though he pulled something out. But when I went back, this was again years ago, when I went back, they said, Kanisha, it's just a cyst. And so for years, when I go to get my mammogram, particularly because I've traveled a lot and I see different doctors, they see the cyst and they freak out. And I see that they see the cyst and I say, I need you to calm down. I think it's a cyst. And we're going to look at the old records and we just want to know, is it moving, shifting, or growing? That's the only concern. But here's what I've learned over those years is, if I'm going to visualize a future, we're going to visualize the one we want, not the one we don't want. We're going to visualize the one where God is in control, where God really does want good for me, where his will for me is good and pleasurable. So we have to learn to visualize instead of worrying about what we don't want. We begin to visualize a future that we do want. And then we take our hands off what we can't control in our life, and we allow God to show up the way he's going to show up. So recently I heard this beautiful, uh, they call it a spiritual law. Now I heard this from Tina Leffert in her book, the little book of big lies. Yes, I have it over on my shelf. She says in the book, if it is not present, that there's a spiritual law that says, if it is not present, it is not necessary. If it is not present, it is not necessary. So when I think about that, it's like, if there is something that in the moment you think you have to have right now, but it's not present, then you can lean on the notion, the understanding that to God is not necessary. And even just yesterday, we had an event that I had scheduled months ago to sell books. Now, I ordered my books from Amazon as I often do, and they said your books will arrive on the 15th. And normally Amazon is on point. We're making sure those books are here on that day. On the 14th, I got a message that says your books will be delayed. They will not arrive till the 20th. Now, the old me would have lost my mind, and I would be like, I got this event. I think I had 8 books, 8 girl books, and about 8 boy books yesterday, and I have many of the multicultural book. But this was a predominantly African American event, and typically this is where I need those books. And these books typically sell easily. I can sell 30, 40, 50 books at these kind of events. And so I said, you know what, Lord? If they're not here, they're not necessary. Now, I was wanting, my desire for this event and my vision for this event was that I was going to have huge sales, right? But when the books didn't come, I said, well, if they're not here, then they're not necessary. And my husband and I, we packed up and we went on. And do you know, because it rained all day yesterday, the turnout was very small. So I didn't need all those books, but I did sell the ones that I had. So it's like they weren't there and they weren't necessary. And what I love about this love walk, this journey that I have with God, where I'm trusting Him with my life, I'm trusting Him with my business, is when I begin to put these practical principles in place. I don't have to worry about my business's future. What I do have to do is I have to seek wisdom, because that's biblical. The Bible tells me to seek wisdom, and all my get understanding. So I have a business coach, and she's teaching me practical tools and strategies on how to grow my business. I am intentional about what I put in my mind and what I listen to, so that I can listen and hear for God's word in every strategy, but not just strategy in my business, but strategy in my marriage and in my relationship with my children, strategy in our finances. And I'll just say to you guys, listen, I don't always know this, but what I have gotten really good at is trusting God. And it's almost like a game. And now I told my husband recently, I said, we're in this new situation. I call it the manna season. So that means what in God's kingdom, the Old Testament, there was a time when He was training the Israelites. Now they missed their training because they complained through the whole thing. He said, I'm going to take you from being a slave to the promised land. And I liken that to God is trying to take you, me, from a mindset that is steeped in maybe worry, steeped in scarcity, believing that you don't have enough, believing that you are the low person on the totem pole. That kind of mindset, He's trying to take you to the promised land, a mindset of abundance, a mindset of everything you need is already done. Like that's the mindset, the shift. Now here's the thing, this is what God has shown me and teaching me. There's a transition period between moving you from being a scarcity mindset, a slave mindset, into the promised land abundance mindset. And in that time, that is when He's training you to trust Him. So when the Israelites was moving from being slaves into the promised land, God rained manna down from heaven. He gave them enough food to eat daily, their daily bread. He only gave them enough to eat daily. And that meant that He was building in them an opportunity for them to trust Him for everything. Because what God has spoken into my spirit is, when I put you in the promised land, you can never think that the promise is the provision, that I am the one who does the providing, not the promise. So the training of like, I learned to depend on God for my daily bread. I'm not worried about next week. I'm not worried about even tomorrow, because tomorrow I will have plenty. I will have supply. Now, God and I have walked through this journey before, and I've seen Him do it. And it's like it's a beautiful love walk game of trusting, where it's like, okay, Lord, the people say we need this money on this day. I don't have it today. Can't wait to see how you're going to show up. And it has happened every single time. Now, what's beautiful about this time, this particular journey that my husband and I are on, this is Andre's time to learn this training. And but the Bible talks about when being like equally yoked and unequally yoked. And so who are you married to? The Bible says a companion of a fool suffers much. So I always think about that in terms of marriage. Who are you married to? Are you suffering because your husband or your spouse, your wife is a fool, and so now you're suffering along with them? But you have to also learn when they go on, when God take them on a spiritual journey, you are also connected to them and that journey. And so somebody needs to be grounded in the word, grounded in God, because when he takes you on a journey, and you may be thinking, why is this happening to me? Well, if you're married, maybe it's affecting you, but it's not about you. So this journey, my husband has to learn to trust God at a different level, and I get to be along for the ride. But here's what I'm able to watch is as God take us through this manner season, I'm seeing my husband see these moments with God, and he's like, "Whoa, wait, babe, look what God is doing! Look what God is doing!" Because God is now training my husband to trust Him at a different level. Because I have had crazy faith for quite some time now, simply because I've been through this journey and training earlier in my walk with God. But it's okay. Like He's a good God, and He is walking us through it. And He's making provisions every single day for the day that we need Him. So we may not be in the abundance season yet. This at this period in this time, meaning I won't have a lot of overflow right now, and I understand that. But I promise you, the love walk He's doing, where every time I need something, the day I need it, boom, it's there. It's a beautiful walk. But it also teaches us how to stay in the moment. And this is working in my business and it's working in my personal life. And I want to leave you guys with this. And this is a quote from Myron Golden. I think he is a millionaire, he may be a billionaire. He's an amazing guy. He's on YouTube. I encourage you, if you have a business, you're trying to grow your business and you need a new mindset, I encourage you to check out Myron Golden. He says this about the Bible. He said he started reading the Bible when he was 17 years old. He said, I've learned that the Bible is not a book about religion, that the Bible is a book of principles, promises, practices, precepts, patterns, prayers, and prophecy that gives me the ability to make predictions about the outcomes in the future to position myself for a life of prosperity. Listen, I this right here, this is going on my vision board so I can be reminded that all I need is God's principles, His precepts, His promises, and I have to pray and position myself in the place of prosperity because I make choices that lead me to just that position. So listen, I want you to be extremely blessed. I want you to have a beautiful Monday. I want to say thank you guys for watching. If this has blessed you at all, I want you to do me a favor. Will you share and subscribe this video? And if you are watching this and you're thinking 2024 is coming around the corner, and I keep hearing people talk about vision boards, but I've done a vision board in the past and my visions aren't coming true, I want you to join me for my webinar. Go to my website, verythoughtfullife.com. The link is in the comments. I want you to be on that webinar so that you can learn how to make sure that your visions come true in 2024. Because when I tell you, I live by a vision board, you guys know if you've ever watched me before, and my visions come true. So I know that yours can too. I can't wait to hear from you. Have a wonderful, amazing day. Bye-bye.